So I have a lot of questions for you guys, but I like throwing some curveballs at the beginning. So for all three of you, if you could get the financing to make anything you want, is there a project that you would love to make?
I'm going to jump in.
Okay.
I've always wanted to do a project on the Opium Wars, like a love story between an American, a New Englander, and like the daughter of like a Chinese merchant trader in the 1840s. But you try pitching that to a studio executive today, and all they can hear are the budget constraints. So that's that would be my dream project if finances were unlimited.
I'd love to do a very elaborate period piece. I would say that's a career goal of mine, as an actor or as a director, possibly one day in the future.
I am currently trying to option something that I will not name, and I would love to be able to direct it. It's also period, so it would go up in budget just because of that, and fingers crossed, because I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, one of the reasons I asked this question is because there might be someone watching who's like, wait, I like that idea too. And, it's like putting it into the ether, if you will. Jonathan, I am curious, when Kingdom hit Netflix, did you all of a sudden notice that everyone was watching?
Yes. And, we were, it's one of the joys of making a movie like Palm Trees and Power Lines. We go off into these little corners of the world as this team united around, a combination of things, but primarily a script and, a vision. In this case, it was Jamie Dack's vision for this film. And you go off and it's this private, quiet little seed that you kind of plant and tend to over the course of, in this case, 2 months. For Kingdom, it was a few years, and nobody knows about it. Nobody's really seen it. The people who have some understanding of what you're doing are really excited or incredibly passionate. And then it finds kind of the light of day when people respond to the work that you did in that little kind of recess of your professional and spiritual life. It's very gratifying. It's scary, right? And then because you're releasing it. But with Kingdom, nobody was watching this show, and we were giving everything we had to it, from Keely Sanchez's, loss of her baby, to Byron's loss of his mother, to Matt Loria's loss of his father. There was a great deal of personal investment. And I think the same can be said for a story like Palm Trees and Power Lines, which makes, I think, the film ultimately under Jamie's guidance and led by, I think, the breathtaking performance of Lily McInerny, it makes it all the more potent and beautiful and scary.
Jamie, I hate asking the generic thing, but no one watching this will have seen the movie yet. So how would you like to describe the film to people?
The film is a coming of age drama about a teenage girl during her summer break from high school. She's in suburbia and experiencing feelings of suburban malaise. She's bored and aimless and not fitting in with her friends and disconnected from her mother. So all of this sets her up perfectly when she meets Tom, a man who's much older than her, and she feels that he's kind of the solution to all of her problems and is filling a certain need she has. But as the film goes on and as their relationship progresses, it becomes clear that Tom's intentions are not exactly what they seem.
Lily, I am curious. This is your first movie role, and I'm so curious. What was it like for you actually being on a movie set versus what you thought in your mind what it might be?
Oh, that's such a fun question. Well, I think I got really lucky that we were working with a really small and intimate crew. So it was kind of the best case scenario for a first-time actor to kind of not necessarily ease their way into it, because this role did demand a lot of pretty heavy emotional stuff. But it was really supportive and relaxed environment to explore all those different emotions. I got to know almost everybody on set by their name and have a little chat every day. And I think that really facilitated the best work and the best kind of experience for such a new actor.
One of the things that I commend all of you guys on is that sometimes I watch a movie and it feels like it's been Hollywoodized, where, you know, it's just not real. And something that I felt when I was watching your film is that I felt like I was almost wearing an invisibility cloak with these people, watching it as it happened. Can you sort of talk about how you wanted aesthetically to tell the story? And for the actors, can you sort of talk about what it was like on set telling this intimate story?
Yeah, I knew that I wanted the story to be very much grounded in reality, which is perhaps what you're responding to. So I wasn't trying to do anything stylized. I really wanted it to be this one character's perspective, and I wanted to be with her every step of the way, which meant that she's literally in every scene of the movie.
Yeah, I think Jamie did a really amazing job of directing us to have the most sort of organic and raw kind of performances we could have possibly have reached. There was a lot of sort of discovery happening in real time, I think, as the scenes were playing out, because we really intentionally tried not to over rehearse anything, or there would be times where Jamie would smack the sides out of my hands before a scene to say, put it down, like, you're good, you're fine. I think I have a tendency as a new actor to kind of over prepare. So I is really not to drop the ball, but for a film like this, and less is more. And I think I'm really glad to hear that was kind of translated on screen.
You know, if Sundance is an opportunity to champion important stories and new voices and exciting filmmakers, there's just no better candidate than Jamie. She's the reason why we all connected to the script and why the film is ultimately successful. I've gotten to work with a lot of really talented people, and there is just such an effortless connection between the best filmmakers I've gotten to work with and actresses I've gotten to work with, and Lily and Jamie. And I hadn't really thought about it until just when this film got into Sundance. But, you know, Jamie reminds me a lot of getting to work with like a Sofia Coppola. She's just fanatical about the performance and that on-set veracity, and all of the kind of the agility that is required to make that happen in a pre-production kind of rehearsal, get to know you sort of time. And Lily, you know, I kind of came up with some wonderful young actresses, but the moment I got to work with Lily, it just became so apparent she breathes truth. I mean, there's just nothing that comes out of her that isn't honest and authentic. And it reminded me of when I first came to LA in the early 90s and was in class with people like Kirsten Dunst and Lily Sobieski. And then more recently with like a Caitlin Deaver, who I've done a few projects with. You're so grateful to be sitting literally so close to that sort of quality of a performance. I mean, people pay hundreds of dollars to do that in theater. And here I get to get paid, you know, a small amount of money on a film like this, but I would pay to be able to sit across from that sort of a performance when you get to be doing their coverage. So Sundance, I think really, this is the sort of movie that I think speaks to what the mandate is of a film festival like this.
I'm just curious, Lily and Jamie, what does it cost to get Jonathan to say these things? Is it $10 or $20?
Oh man, I don't know what we did to. Well, no, I do know what Lily did. I mean, yeah, anyone who sees Lily's performance is going to be blown away. I'm confident of that. So
I'm gonna start crying.
But Stephen, I mean, you know, they're during production. Jamie's like, isn't she amazing? Isn't she incredible? And I'm like, yeah, of course, but it's not like nobody's been surprised by the success that Jamie's had across the board in the filmmaking. And it really starts for us with Lily's performance. It's just totally fresh and completely remarkable. And it was not a surprise to any of us that Jamie had the foresight and the courage to tell all of these agents and managers that their hotshot, well-known, famous clients who were willing to sacrifice large paychecks to be a part of our project weren't going to get to do it, and that she was going to go with this fresh face. It turned out it was much more than a fresh face, as you see in the quality of the work that Lily puts down on this film.
I also think there's something about casting, putting someone on screen that the audience is unfamiliar with, because when you know someone's previous work, you might be associating that actor with something else.
Yes, that's something I talk about a lot. Not only was it incredibly exciting to get to, discover someone that's as incredible as Lily, but I didn't want people to be watching and go, oh, there's so-and-so playing a teenage girl. I thought, and I think I was right, that it's, a lot more painful and powerful to be watching and feel like you're watching this real teenage girl and not be associating her with some other role. So yeah, soon Lily won't be able to check that box, but for this film, yeah.
I just need to say how grateful I am to have my first acting experience be shared with you guys and this incredible film, and such an incredible mentor to me, Jonathan has been. I learned so much just watching Jonathan and Gretchen's performances in this film. It felt like a master class and just the most amazing experience. I'm so grateful to you guys, and thank you for the kind words.
I also think something about this film that is really, really good is that it can show the audience how easy it is to be exploited, and to, because it really takes you through the stages of grooming and what really goes on, and how someone can succumb to like an outside presence, if you will. Can maybe if you could talk a little bit about that?
That I'm so glad to hear you say that. That was critical for me. The script is written actually to follow the 5 stages of grooming. And I, really wanted people to be able to understand how Leah gets to where she does in the 3rd act of the film, and also in the very last scene. And I felt that in order for people to understand, they really needed to see this step by step by step, play by play by play, way in which this happens.
For you guys, I'm just curious, there are some tough scenes in this for you guys to film, and I'm curious, what was it actually like on set in between takes? Because I've spoken to some actors and they're very jovial on set in between takes, even when it's serious, and others are very much in their head. And I'm curious for both of you, like, what was your headspace in between these scenes, and and how did you guys work together? Because some actors work differently.
I think it depended on the day. I tend to use levity in uncomfortable situations and humor to kind of cope. So I'd say I would be cracking jokes and trying to keep the atmosphere as light as possible on days where we were working with some of the most intense scenes. Other days, I knew that Leah was going to a place that I couldn't really avoid, and I leaned into those feelings, and I guess took a more kind of, I don't know, immersive approach. And those were days where I was just kind of like headphones on, like sulking in a corner until they rolled, until the cameras started rolling. But I think Jonathan sometimes took this scenes, at least my scenes, even harder than I did. I really felt kind of the empathy of Tucker and his character on some of the harder days on set.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you want to throw yourself into the character and the situation. But when the content is so upsetting, um, you're really fighting between these two forces. And I certainly wrestled with that, fought passionately with those different perspectives. And, to the credit of Lily and Jamie, they were really helpful in just allowing me to not feel as kind of scared and vulnerable as I was and had been. I think there's one or two scenes that I found profoundly challenging, and Jamie was concerned that I wasn't talking to her because I was mad at her. I was just a little too upset by the whole thing to go back to the traditional convivial conversations that we had been having.
So I love learning about the behind the scenes of the making of a movie. And so for soon to be fans of the film, for each of you, what do you think they might be surprised to learn about the actual making of the film?
I'd say my 2008 Ford Crown Victoria P71 Police Intercept wasn't just a stock standard transportation mobile for a number of cast members and crew, but it was also a warming van. It was a place of solace for Lily and I, and it's featured prominently from time to time in the film. Be a good behind the scenes, like every time you see my Crown Vic, you can throw back a shot.
Yes, seriously.
We shot in a real working motel that feels right out of a book like Nickel and Dimed, where you see real families and real people who are trying to make ends meet, and they're living in a nightly or weekly low income motel space. And that was pretty sobering for us. We're trying to shoot a movie in that world that also is tying into the reality of that.
Yeah, and that's reminding me, just in terms of Jonathan mentioning a location, there's over 20 locations in this film. People would read the script and be like, oh, it's really compact. And, actually it required a lot of locations that we had to find. And what I think would be interesting to someone who isn't really working in film is that we shot all over the place. Like, so those locations are 1 hour away from each other, but we were able to stitch them together to feel like one cohesive world.
I'm fascinated by the editing process because it's where it all comes together. So I'm curious, what was it like when you first stepped in the editing room? Were you ready to jump through a window because you were nervous, or were you like, oh, we got it?
I love editing. Like, I'm the type of I had worked with an amazing editor, Chris Radcliffe, and we edited together every single day. So I was there every day, and I love that process. And definitely it can be a little bit scary. I'll never forget, like, during the pandemic, when whenever you'd watch a YouTube video and there would be that advertisement for the masterclass thing, and Martin Scorsese would be like, if you don't feel physically ill after watching your first assembly, there's something wrong. And so, I knew that even the greats, feel disturbed by their first cut. So yeah, there were things that I was disturbed by, but that's literally what editing is. You have to just keep cutting, and it changes so much. Like, there's so much you can change in the editing room, and so much you can shape. And I find it really exciting. It's actually one of my favorite parts of making a film.
Did you actually make any big changes in the editing room that you weren't expecting?
Big changes? No. There's scenes where we cut dialogue. So like, maybe now they only say 3 or 4 lines, but originally in the script, there were 10 lines. There's a few little scenes that were cut entirely from the movie, but nothing, they weren't like important. They were kind of just little moments. And I think that's fairly normal. So no, I would say we didn't make any large changes at all.
Jonathan and Lily, I'm curious, what is it like actually watching your work? And Lily, especially for you, because this is your first movie. What is it actually like watching it for the first time? And can you sort of take yourself Like, are you very self-conscious, or can you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I was absolutely terrified to watch it for the first time. I was trying to think of ways out of it, in fact, but I knew it was too important and I was too invested in the story itself to skip that. As soon as I pressed play, I was able to set aside any kind of insecurities or fixations on my appearance or my voice, all of those things that would necessarily kind of cringe you out about yourself on tape, and just try to fall into the narrative as much as I could so that I could really enjoy the work that everybody poured into this, right down to the PAs. It felt like such a kind of family effort. So I'm proud of myself for being able to put my insecurities aside and just sort of enjoy or be moved by the story. I am proud of myself for the way I coped in the end. I'm not sure I'm going to be rewatching it necessarily, but
I think, what happens on the set of a confident artist like Jamie is that everybody has prepared all of their work, and then they come on the day and they put out a lot of things that are going to be amazing, and with that are going to be a lot of things that totally fail. And so when you finally see the assembly of it, you're always hoping that they're picking the right moments and hunting for the right moments in the editing bay, and then building the performance around that versus kind of exacting their will on the performance based on the script or based on how they originally envisioned it. And once that's kind of satisfied, then it's exciting to see all of the other things that you hadn't entirely anticipated. I mean, for this character, Tom, I really looked at like Little Red Riding Hood and Brothers Grimm, sort of Aesop fables, cautionary tales. But in the performance itself, like on the day, it was all about being the wolf dressed up in the outfit and looking lovely and being lovely. So then seeing it all together, you're like, oh, those really are. No, it's not really a better nose to smell you with or hands to touch you with. It is that wolf in a sheep's clothing, and that is pretty upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, I'm gonna you guys have a premiere to get to, and I'm just gonna say congratulations on the movie. I thought you guys did such a great job, and I'm really happy to help promote it on Collider. I hope it's a big hit for you guys, and thank you so much for your time.
Can't wait to see you again.
Thank you so much.
Great interview, man. Thank you.